A company is going to go to where the cheap labor is, and that's what we've seen happen, is go to the cheap labor. So it's the American worker that has suffered because there wasn't a fair trade agreement in place to begin with.
Mr. Sanborn.
Mr. Sanborn, before, just to throw in an interesting fact to go with Mr. Ferlini's description, the Michigan exports currently $11 billion a year to Mexico. Michigan is one of the largest exporting states in this country to Mexico. If the NAFTA is renegotiated, do you fear that would hurt this district?
Well, certainly that's your area of expertise, but I think Ross Perot summed it up best when he said that large sucking sound. That were those jobs that were leaving the United States to go to Mexico, to go to Latin American countries. And it's not just the jobs, but the businesses, the corporations that went down there. And Tony mentioned that it was the cheap labor, but not just the cheap labor, but the cheaper taxation when companies domicile in foreign countries, and the regulation. You see, because they're not dealing with OSHA or MyOSHA in Michigan. They're not dealing with these wacky ergonomics issues. They're not dealing with the red tape and regulation. You know, when I was the chairman of regulatory reform in the state of Michigan, we did hearings to find out why jobs were leaving the state of Michigan and going to Georgia and other places like that. They rolled out the red carpet, just bring your jobs, they gave them tax abatements, and that was that large sucking sound, not just to Mexico with NAFTA, but to the other states here in Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Sanborn. Mr. Pavlov.
Well, Henry, I would say that anything that's 20 years old needs a little bit of work. And I would also say that you can take a look at the financial impacts, but let's take a look at our impact on society and the heroin problem and the issues with drugs. Couple that with an administration that Obama has been leading to pull border security off, to be able to let the porous borders continue to run these things through. Our trucks are coming through with drugs on them. They're coming through with human trafficking people, the narcotics. It isn't just about trade. We are paying a heavy social cost for agreements like that. And any trade agreement needs to make sure that it's being monitored and everybody is playing by the same rules. You know, we're really focusing on Mexico here, but we have to understand we have a great trading partner in Canada. And so the materials that go back and forth, it's a little bit different on the Canadian side, but still, we're at risk. And so if we're not willing to be able to take a look at it and address the reasons why that trade is going, like 35% marginal tax rate that we have on corporations, those are all contributing factors to the problems that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlov. Mr. Mitchell.
Henry, the dichotomy you set up is interesting. Are we going to talk about the Johnson administration next? I mean, let's talk about the policy, which is what do we do about trade and the impact it's having in this country? The reality is, and I give Senator Pavlov credit, he's stolen my line from the last debate, that NAFTA, along with a variety of other trade agreements, have been around eons, 20 years. What business agreement have you seen in your experience in this that exists for 20 years and you don't renegotiate it? You're making an assumption because he opens it up for negotiation, we're going to lose $11 billion. Everyone benefits from trade, but it has to be free trade. And I would agree with Donald Trump that, frankly, in a variety of areas, we're taking it in the ear, and I'm cleaning that up for public consumption, okay? We need to renegotiate NAFTA, we need to deal with CAFTA, and we need to go back on the TPA because of the TPP, because in fact it doesn't deal with a variety of things, including currency manipulation, environmental standards, which I mentioned earlier. We can go through a list of them, and we need to deal with that.
If I could just interject, Mr. Mitchell, as a businessman, you know we are internationally the most open, the most free trade nation in this on this planet. If the United States initiates renegotiation of our trade agreements like NAFTA, do you not fear a trade war that would hurt, for example, agriculture businesses like those in this district who export millions of dollars overseas?
If it's handled as adults, I think, in fact, we can do that. I think we can negotiate it. We have to deal with China and stealing intellectual property. Let's be serious about it. And you know that's very much the case. Check the car, the Cherry that came over, the knockoff of a GM car. Surprise. The reality is how long are we going to take it in a year before we decide we're going to deal with it and deal with some ramifications? We've lost our jobs in this country. My dad lost his job at the auto plant because of NAFTA.
I think everybody on the panel wants Kathy to ask the next question.
All right, well, I'm glad the word jobs came up and American worker came up in that last question, because that leads into my question. I'm sure you gentlemen all heard last week the latest unemployment numbers. 4.9% unemployment, right? If you listen to the White House and all the White House lapdogs, you would think President Obama and his administration saved the economy, 4.9%. But the far less reported number, and the much more important number, of course, is the labor force participation rate. And that, of course, is the number of people in the country who can work but aren't working, or the people who can work or at least trying to work. Anybody know what the labor force participation rate was for June last week? Anyone?
60%?
51, 52%.
62.7%. But does
Just make sure.
anybody, hello. But does anybody know what the labor force participation rate was when at its historical highs, back before the recession?
Probably 85%.
66%, but it's still a huge deal, because at that rate, if we had a historical rate of participation today, unemployment would be 9.7%. So we've got, the real problem is that there are still more and more people who can work who aren't. They're not even trying. As members of Congress, I don't even know who this is going to. I don't remember who it's going to. Anyway, well, regardless, as a member of
There's
Congress,
a question here somewhere.
right here, Charlie.
Oh, right, sorry. How much time does she get? That's good.
I've been asking him questions, so audience participation. How would you get more people back into the labor force?
Mr. Pavlov, let's try that one.
Well, since we're talking statistics, do you know when the lowest unemployment rate in this country was? 2% in 1943. Think about where we were in 1943. That's when America worked, you guys. What this administration has done is replace jobs with handouts. That's what we're dealing with. And as a member of Congress, if we don't address that point blank, we're going to lose the middle class. We cannot be taking what Obama is handing us back and live with it. It has neutralized it. It is crushing our urban areas. It is costing us billions of dollars in productivity. It has been a destabilizing factor for any kind of innovation. People don't want to get up off the couch because their benefits equal $15 to $18 an hour. Why do they want to go work for $9? And so if we cut the fuel line on these benefits and these handouts and replace it with workforce and jobs and get up in the morning and go do something productive, we're going to be much better. We'll move toward that 1943 number.
Mr. Mitchell.
I believe most people want to work, but in fact, there's not sufficient jobs, there's not sufficient opportunity to work, and as Phil said, the entitlement system is wrong. The biggest problem is stop calling it entitlements. Since when were you entitled to sit on the couch and collect benefits, to collect food stamps, to collect cash assistance, a cell phone? And we've been tricked into that by progressives. It's an entitlement. No. When I grew up, it was a stopgap. It was welfare, it was public assistance, and we were on it a number of times when Dad got laid off from the auto plant. The reality is I ran some of the largest welfare to work programs in the country. What you need to do is eliminate those programs, have a time limit. Other states have dealt very effectively with some of the problems. In Maine, they've got a limit on the SNAP program that they have to work, go to school, or volunteer 20 hours a week, or they lose their benefits. The caseload in Maine went down to 12,000 in 2 months. Florida has drug testing for access to welfare benefits. Go Governor Scott. They threatened to sue him, but the reality is we have to pack drug tests for jobs most days. Why should they not have to?
All right, thank you, Mr. Perlini.
Yeah, these entitlement programs are destroying our country. You know, there was a time where you had to work if you had some kind of benefits. I believe we need to get back to that. If we're going to give these benefits, if there's a safety net that the federal government's going to provide, I think that there should be value brought back. Whether it's, and I think it's a matter of work. GM, Chrysler, Ford. When I was a township supervisor, they had a program in place where if they weren't working, they had to do community service in order to get some benefit that they got through the auto companies. I brought them in to clean our parks, to paint our buildings, to do all the work that we needed to have done, and it didn't cost us a penny. We need to get these people that are on entitlement programs, not to be entitled, but to earn something, maybe even earn trade along the way, and clean up our parks, and clean up our roads, and clean up everything that we have here.
Mr. Sanborn.
I've seen it time and time again, having worked with many of these families who end up making out better by just staying at home on the couch, if you will. And when they can draw a housing stipend, a food stamps, and I said the ADD stipend and the bipolar stipend and disability income and supplemental income, when you can work the system and you can end up getting a pension, a lucrative pension before you've done one day of work. Now, when I was in the House of Representatives and the Senate, we worked very hard to reform welfare. Michigan was only one of 2 states in the United States, and Rocky, you remember this, one of 2 states in the United States that had lifetime welfare benefits. We reformed that. We need to find cost efficiencies with regard to that. Now, it did shift over a lot of people to Social Security, and now they're working that system. We need to eliminate, we need to find the cost efficiencies there and find the people that are abusing the system, and starting with the illegal aliens.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vanderbilt. Mr. Van Ash.
Yes, this is why I was in favor of just repealing Obamacare, and I wouldn't keep anything in it. Employers aren't hiring employees anymore because they can't afford the health care premiums. That's number one. Number two is you got to have tax reform. Tax reform is the key to get back jobs back here. It starts at the corporate level. We have the highest corporate rate at 35%. That's why all the jobs are going outside of our country's borders. And you have to have reform with personal income tax. You have to cut those rates, put more money back into us, our citizens, so they spend it on the economy, and that's what makes an economy grow.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ash. Last question, I'll take it real quick. I know you candidates believe that you are the best one to represent this district in Congress. I get that. However, if you're not the nominee, will you pledge to support somebody else on this panel? And if the answer is yes, then I want you to say, assess this group of candidates to represent this district, excluding yourself. Mr. Pavlov.
Would you repeat that question? Because you went all over the board with that thing. Let me answer the first part. I would absolutely support the winner of the primary and do everything I can do to make sure that that man got to Washington, D.C. Now, the next part of your question.
Tell me assess this group of candidates. How does this group stack up, in your opinion, compared to you? But in your opinion, this group.
I think...
Don't mention yourself.
No, I won't. All I would say is the 4 of those come about that much short.
Mr. Van Ash.
Absolutely, I'm a team player. I'd support whoever the constituents deem necessary, who they think will elect them, represent them the best. How I assess these guys, I mean, they're all great guys, but I'll tell you that the big difference is there's only one veteran up here, and that's me. And what's the biggest problem facing our nation? Is ISIS and radical Islam terrorists, which our president refuses to acknowledge. Who can defeat that threat best? A veteran who's been in 4 foreign wars.
All right, hold on. I know. All right, let me go. I don't mean to cut you off, but just your assessment. Mr. Ferlini.
And we're not supposed to talk about ourselves, right?
I don't want you to talk about yourself.
I just wanted to make sure I got that mixed up here.
But talk about these guys.
I would absolutely support every one of these gentlemen to my left. Of course, they're all to my left. But the second time I've been all the way on the right here. No, they're all every one of them bring a different level of experience, whether it's public service or business service, and I would absolutely support every one of them.
All right, Mr. Sanborn.
I absolutely would support everyone here, and frankly, I think the people of the United States of America are sick and tired of the negative political, argumentative tone that's going on in this country today. We need more statesmen, but to be a statesman, you can be a fighter. And I've seen the campaign turn a little negative lately, and I'm encouraging everybody that's running to remember, you know, you can be a statesman and get things done and be a fighter. And, you know, I have my children in this room. I've taught them to go by...
It's not technically about yourself, I guess.
The golden rule. To go by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so I'm not going to say anything negative about anyone during this campaign. I'm just going to keep knocking doors, and I'm going to support the winner of the primary. And I hope that they're going to support me.
Mr. Mitchell.
I certainly would support any of the people up here. I think that they come from a place that represents Republican values, and we need that representing this district. So there's no question about that. Now, in answering your question about which one, I'm a little different than the other guys. If I had a choice, I would support Tony Forlini because he has business experience. Wow. He has relevant business experience. Now, I'll bicker with him about his votes. Trust me, we'll talk about that separately. He's sitting to the right tonight, but not all the time. But the reality is, Tony has relevant, real-world business experience day to day, and this country needs that more than they need anything else at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Okay. 1 minute closing. 1 minute. We'll start in the same order. Representative Forlini, you want to say something nice about your fellow? I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, this is our fifth. I think it's our fifth forum that we've been together, and I have a mutual respect for every one of these gentlemen here. You have a tough choice. You have a tough choice as to who you want to see represent you in the 10th district, and whoever wins this seat is probably going to be in there for quite a while. So it's a very important vote. It's a very important vote that you need to ponder. You know, I come from, like Paul said, from both the business world as well as the political world, and I try to meld those two things together. And I come from a world where my dad was an immigrant and saw this country as the world of, as the land of opportunity. This was an unbelievable opportunity for him to come to, and for my kids to be looking at other states to live. It was the reason I ran for state rep, because I couldn't see where my dad came to this country for all this opportunity just for us to squander it. I want to bring this state of Michigan back to the land of opportunity. If you believe in what I'm saying, I'd like you to go to my website, Forlini for US, help support me. I've got a Facebook page, Forlini for Congress. Appreciate your support.
Thank you, Tony Forlini. David Van.
Thank you. Yeah, I got into this race for one reason, to give our constituents a choice. You have 4 politicians and a veteran. Not only a veteran with 27 years, but also in the private sector. So I would disagree with Paul that Tony's the only one who has the business sense. I'm the only one up here who has an MBA, by the way. Having said that, in the Air Force, we live by 3 core values. Integrity first, doing the right thing when no one else is looking. You know, we don't see that with our Democratic presidential nominee. She should be in jail. The second core value is service before self. I believe in considering other people's needs more important than my own. The third core value that I live by is excellence in all we do, and I base that off Scripture, whether it be by word or deed, due to the glory of God. I've done that for 27 years. I'm a man of integrity and character, and that's why I'm running on courage, character, and conviction. I would say this, these guys are good choices, but I'm the right choice. And I hope you guys would vote for me on August 2nd to be your elected representative. Thank you.
David Van Ash, thank you. Paul Mitchell.
Thanks, Charlie. Tony, as of next week, next Friday, we'll have done 10 forums across the district, forums or debates, since we started this process. This is the largest crowd. It's a great crowd, and I appreciate everyone being here. I grew up in a family that was working class. Dad built trucks on the line. Mom worked at the Salvation Army. I was the oldest of 7. Saved money to go to college. I was the first in my family, my extended family, to go to college, or mine graduate from college. And I got a degree from James Madison College in public policy and economics. I then went for 35 years. I devoted my life to helping adults get the skills needed to go to work, to support their families. I could help people and make a living. What's cooler than that, frankly? I retired in 2011, and I continue to have a need to make a difference because we need change in Washington, this world. I'm the only candidate that's put out detailed plans for creating economic opportunity, Michigan Prosperity Plan, and the Agriculture Opportunity Plan. You can see both on the website. They're detailed plans of solutions for our country that we need, and we need them quickly. I appreciate your support. Your vote would be appreciated.
Thank you. Paul Mitchell. Alan Sanborn.
It was an honor to serve Macomb County in both the State House and the State Senate. And in doing so, I was, I think, a reflection of the district. I was Michigan's most conservative senator year after year, not just fiscally, but socially. You can always rely on that conservative vote out of me. I'm the one guy up here who can actually say that I never voted for a tax increase, and I think I might be the only one who's taken the American for Tax Reform pledge and never will vote for a tax increase when I go to Congress. I will continue to reflect the values and the views of this district, and at the end of my career, I want to be able to come home to my wife and kids and know that I've served honorably, and to be able to look up to my God at night and know that he thinks, well done, thy good and faithful servant.
Thank you, Alan Sanborn. Bill Pavlov.
Well, in the minute that I have, the first thing I want to do is thank each and every one of you for coming out and participating. Many of you have already made a decision, but to those at home who are looking, you got to see up close the future of the 10th Congressional District. And let's talk about the future, because that's what elections are about. We all have a past, we all have experiences that we bring to this table. Who's got the vision to build an America that's going to take care of generations to come? I have had great success not only in the business world for 20 years, I've had great success in the legislature, and that legislative success has been really from people like you. I am very proud to serve. I am very proud to have been elected 6 times. I take that with great pride. I look forward for your support on August 2nd. My website is philpavlo.com. Please join. Grab a yard sign, and before my time comes up, I want to thank my family and my supporters who came out today to help encourage this candidacy, and I couldn't get it done without you guys, so thank you very much.
Bill Pavlov. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this debate. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.